Your emotions are not on your side. Let me repeat that so it lands. Your emotions are not your allies. They aren't some mystical inner guide pointing you toward happiness or truth. They're ancient biological mechanisms built for a hostile environment that disappeared long ago, an era in which reacting instantly was essential for survival. Back then, a moment of hesitation could mean becoming prey. In the modern world, however, those same emotional impulses are sabotaging your progress, damaging your relationships, and entrapping you in loops of impulsive choices, regret, and self-destruction. Nearly every day, you make choices driven by whatever you happen to feel. Someone's comment irritates you, and you snap back without thinking. You feel discouraged and abandon your goals. You worry about a presentation and pull back from an opportunity that could have reshaped your career. You let anger speak for you and burn bridges that took years to build. All of this happens because you're being puppeteered by chemical surges inside your brain, and most of the time, you don't even notice it. But here's the difference between average performers and the top 1%. They've mastered a skill most people never realize exists. The skill of non-reaction. The ability to feel an emotion fully, acknowledge it, and then decide, consciously, how to respond based on reason, clarity, and long-term thinking, instead of primitive urges roaring for attention. This isn't about turning into a robot. It isn't about burying your feelings or pretending they don't matter. It's about reclaiming control of your life by learning to manage the space between what happens and how you respond. The gap where your real strength resides. The gap where your future is written. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will not be the same person who pressed play. You will have mental tools, scientific understanding, and practical frameworks that allow you to govern your emotions instead of being ruled by them. You will learn how to remain steady under stress, make intelligent choices when pressure is high, and cultivate a deep inner stability that distinguishes high achievers from everyone else. Most people have no clue how costly their emotional reactions are. They believe it's normal to get triggered. They assume that losing control in difficult moments is simply part of being human. They often romanticize intense reactions as signs of passion or honesty. They are wrong, dangerously wrong, and this misunderstanding silently tears apart their careers, relationships, and long-term happiness. Let me show you what emotional reactivity looks like in real life. Imagine you're in a meeting with your boss and coworkers. Someone challenges your idea in a tone that feels dismissive. Your pulse accelerates, heat rises in your cheeks. A voice inside your head starts ranting about how unfair this is, how they're undermining you, how they clearly don't appreciate your efforts. Before you realize it, you respond sharply. The tone in your voice changes. The room shifts awkwardly. In 60 seconds, your emotional reaction damages a professional reputation you've spent years building. Or consider a small disagreement with your partner. They say something that touches an old wound. Instead of slowing down and working with them, you escalate. You bring up past arguments. You choose words intended to hurt because you're hurt. Minutes later, what began as a tiny issue explodes into a painful conflict that will take days to repair. All because you couldn't regulate your first emotional surge. Here's the harsh truth most people avoid. Every time you react impulsively, you're teaching your brain to be weaker. You strengthen the neural pathways that make emotional outbursts more likely. You are literally reshaping your mind toward conflict, chaos, and regret. And the worst part? You do this voluntarily. Science is overwhelmingly clear. Every emotional reaction triggers a flood of chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol. They impair your judgment, distort your thinking, and limit your ability to make rational decisions. But those chemicals don't disappear once the moment passes. They can linger for hours, sometimes days, influencing every conversation, every choice, every thought. One emotional spike in the morning can derail an entire day. A stressful argument at home affects your performance at work.
A single upsetting email can trigger a cascade of poor decisions that ripple through your entire week. Emotional reactivity creates a loop. The more you react, the easier it becomes to react again. But the consequences reach much deeper than you think. Chronic emotional reactivity changes the physical structure of your brain. Brain imaging studies reveal that people who frequently lose control tend to have a smaller prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reasoning, planning, and self-control. In simple terms, the more you react emotionally, the less capable you become of thinking clearly. Now let's talk about the financial cost. Every opportunity you avoided because of fear or anxiety, every decision made in frustration that cost you money, every goal you quit on because you felt discouraged. The accumulated losses over a lifetime are enormous. I've seen executives lose millions because they made decisions in anger. Entrepreneurs destroy partnerships because they blew up during negotiations. Highly talented people ruin their own progress by sending reckless messages or presenting while overwhelmed by anxiety. But the damage to relationships is even more devastating. Every time you lash out at someone you love, you withdraw trust from the emotional bank account of the relationship. You create distance. You plant resentment. Over time, these reactions accumulate and erode the bonds you value most. Your children learn emotional habits from watching you. Your partner becomes cautious, unsure when you might explode. Your friends and colleagues start seeing you as unpredictable or unstable. But perhaps the greatest damage is internal. Each time you lose control, you lose respect for yourself. A part of you knows you could have behaved better. You know you're capable of more, but you feel powerless in the moment, and that powerlessness eats away at your confidence, creating a cycle of shame and self-doubt. The good news? This is entirely within your control to change. Emotional reactivity is not destiny. It's not permanent. It's not genetic. It's a behavior pattern, a habit, and like any habit, it can be replaced. The question is whether you're willing to do the work. To take control of your emotions, you first need to understand why your brain often seems intent on sabotaging you. Your emotional responses aren't random or meaningless. They are the result of millions of years of evolution, originally designed to protect humans from immediate physical dangers. But the world has changed dramatically. Your brain, however, has not. Let's focus on a critical part of your brain you've likely heard of, but never fully understood. The amygdala. This small, almond-shaped structure deep in your brain acts as your internal alarm system. Its job is simple: detect threats and trigger rapid survival responses. When your ancestors faced a saber-toothed tiger, the amygdala flooded their system with adrenaline, temporarily shut down rational thought, and prepared them for fight or flight. These instincts saved lives. The problem is, your amygdala cannot distinguish between real predators and modern threats. An angry email, a harsh comment from a colleague, or a critique in a meeting triggers it just like a predator would. This is what scientists call an amygdala hijack, a takeover of rational thinking by primitive instincts. The moment your brain perceives danger, reasoning goes offline. Blood is redirected from the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for planning, decision-making, and self-control, to the limbic system, which governs emotional reactions. In essence, you become less capable of thinking clearly while your emotional brain goes into overdrive. And it gets worse. The amygdala is a fast learner, but not a smart one. Each emotional reaction is stored as proof that the stimulus was dangerous. Things that triggered you once become more likely to trigger you again. This is why people who have been hurt in relationships develop hypersensitivity to rejection. It's why those criticized at work become defensive at the slightest hint of feedback, even if it's constructive. The amygdala also has a negativity bias. It prioritizes threats over rewards, pain over pleasure, failures over successes. This bias made perfect sense in ancestral times. Survival mattered more than comfort. But today, it keeps your mind scanning for problems, dangers, and slights around every corner. Moreover, the amygdala reacts faster than your rational mind. It can trigger a fight-or-flight response in as little as 12 milliseconds, whereas your prefrontal cortex may need at least 500 milliseconds to analyze the situation logically. This is why you often feel angry or anxious before you understand why. Your emotional brain has already decided there's a threat and mobilized your body to respond. Modern life compounds this problem. Constant low-level stressors, notifications, alarming news, emails demanding immediate action, traffic jams, financial pressure, and relationship friction keep your amygdala on high alert. This chronic activation lowers your threshold for emotional reactions, making even minor inconveniences feel overwhelming.
Lack of sleep worsens the situation. Studies show that sleep deprivation increases amygdala reactivity by up to 40%. Poor nutrition, dehydration, and sedentary habits have similar effects, making emotional control even more difficult. Here's the empowering truth. Knowing that emotional responses are automatic does not mean you're powerless. On the contrary, understanding how your brain works gives you a roadmap for mastering your emotions. You can strengthen your prefrontal cortex to regulate the amygdala. You can form new neural pathways that prioritize conscious control over reactive impulses. There is always a tiny gap between the trigger and your response, milliseconds that contain immense power. That is the space where choice exists. That is the place where you reclaim control. By learning to operate within that gap, you stop being a puppet of instinct. You start responding intentionally, shaping your future instead of letting automatic reactions shape it for you. Emotional control is often misunderstood. Most people assume it's a simple on-off switch. Either you're in control or you're not, calm or reactive, black or white. This simplistic view is why so many never achieve true emotional mastery. Real emotional intelligence exists on 4 distinct levels, and understanding each is key to developing inner resilience that separates top performers from the rest. Level 1. Unconscious reactivity. Most people live here their entire lives. At this stage, emotions dictate every action. When you feel something, you act immediately, without conscious thought. Someone irritates you and you snap. A stressful situation arises and you retreat. Excitement or temptation pushes you into impulsive choices you later regret. At this level, you may not even recognize that a choice exists. You believe your feelings are facts and that your reactions are justified. Statements like, "You made me angry," or "I can't help how I feel," reflect this mindset. There is no awareness between the stimulus and response. The danger of level 1 is unpredictability. You're inconsistent, and others can't rely on you. Calm one day, explosive the next. Unreliability erodes trust in relationships and makes collaboration nearly impossible during high-stakes situations. Level 2. Conscious reactivity. At this stage, you are aware of your emotions, yet still act on them. You know you're angry or anxious, but you choose to react anyway, often justifying your behavior as appropriate. People at level 2 might think, "Yes, I got upset, but look at what they did to me," or "I know I overreacted, but they deserved it." Awareness exists, but self-regulation does not. This level is particularly frustrating because you know better. You're caught in a cycle. React, regret, promise to improve, repeat. Confidence and self-respect erode over time, leaving a lingering sense of frustration and shame. Level 3. Conscious response. Here, emotional mastery begins in earnest. You feel the emotion, recognize it, and choose how to respond based on values and long-term goals, not immediate impulses. You might feel anger, but speak calmly. Anxiety may rise, but you act anyway. Disappointment hits, yet your focus remains on solutions instead of dwelling on the problem. At this level, emotions are information, not instructions. Anger signals something needs attention, but it does not demand action. Anxiety is a signal, not a threat. Mastery requires practice.
recognizing emotions as they arise, identifying triggers, and having alternative responses ready. It demands pausing, breathing, and thinking before acting. This level is achievable with consistent effort, though not instantaneous. Level 4. Emotional alchemy. The highest stage of mastery is transforming emotions themselves. You don't just manage negative emotions, you convert them into constructive energy. Anger becomes motivation. Fear transforms into excitement. Disappointment evolves into curiosity and learning. People at level 4 understand their emotional patterns so deeply that they can often prevent negative emotions from dominating. They restructure thought patterns and mental models, generating more positive, productive states by default. This isn't about forcing positivity or ignoring reality. It's about directing your internal state, choosing what to feel and how to act. You become the director of your emotional experience, rather than a passive actor reacting to scripts written by circumstances or impulses. Progress over perfection. Advancing through these levels isn't linear. You may operate at level 3 at work, yet fall to level 1 with family dynamics. Emotional mastery varies by context. The goal isn't perfection, but consistent progress. Each level represents a powerful upgrade in your ability to shape your life rather than react to it. Most people never pass level 2. They assume emotional control is innate. Some are born good at it, others are not. That is false. Emotional regulation is like physical fitness. Genetics may give advantages, but anyone can develop strength through persistent training. The crucial question is this: at which level are you operating today? And at which level do you want to operate? Once you commit to upgrading your emotional operating system, your decisions, relationships, and success will all begin to change. When emotions are surging, your heart racing, thoughts spiraling, instincts screaming to lash out or flee, you need a real-time system to regain control before irreversible damage occurs. Most advice about emotional management fails here. Why? Because when your amygdala hijacks your brain, your prefrontal cortex is offline. Complex strategies or mental frameworks are useless in the heat of the moment. You need a method that is simple, immediate, and automatic. One that works even when your mind is temporarily incapacitated. This is where the S.T.O.P method comes in. 4 letters, 4 actions, 1 sequence. Designed to interrupt emotional reactivity and give you back control before you say or do something you'll regret. Developed from decades of neuroscience and tested in extreme conditions, from hospitals to battlefields to boardrooms, this method works under pressure. S. Stop. The very first step is literal stop. Physically halt what you're doing. Hands on the keyboard? Withdraw them. Mid-conversation? Pause. About to make a snap decision? Step back. Stopping communicates to your brain that you are taking control. The key is noticing early warning signs before emotions fully take over. Racing heartbeat, tense muscles, shallow breathing, heat in the face, or a knot in the stomach. Ignoring these signals is how most people find themselves already fully hijacked before they realize it. Stopping must be decisive. Partial stopping won't work. You must completely disengage, even if it feels awkward in the moment. The temporary discomfort of stopping is nothing compared to the lasting consequences of a regrettable action. T. Take a breath. Next, regulate your nervous system through deliberate breathing. Not just any breath, a structured pattern known as box breathing. Inhale slowly through the nose for a count of 4. Hold the breath for 4 counts. Exhale slowly through the mouth for 6 counts. This technique activates your parasympathetic nervous system, counteracting the stress response triggered by your amygdala. Adrenaline and cortisol are flooding your body, preparing you for fight or flight. Box breathing signals to your body to calm down, allowing reason to return. Repeat this at least 3 times, or as long as necessary, until your heartbeat slows and tension decreases. The goal is not just to function, it's to think clearly and regain control. O. Observe. Once your body is calmer, take a step back and observe objectively. What emotions are present? What thoughts are running through your mind? What physical sensations are occurring? What is actually happening externally versus what you are interpreting? This step is essential. Emotional reactions are often based on assumptions rather than facts. Observing separates perception from reality, giving you clarity before action. P. Proceed. Finally, with awareness and composure restored, you proceed intentionally. You respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Decisions are now made from logic, values, and long-term priorities, rather than the raw energy of unprocessed emotion. You regain your power, you protect your relationships, your reputation, and your goals. You transform reactive chaos into deliberate action. The power of the gap. The S.T.O.P method works because it exploits the micro-gap between stimulus and response, the same gap that defines emotional mastery. That brief pause is where control resides, where conscious choice can override automatic impulses. Every time you apply this method, you strengthen your prefrontal cortex and retrain your amygdala. With practice, this gap grows. What once felt like an uncontrollable eruption becomes a manageable moment. Emotional hijacks lose power. Your ability to respond intentionally expands. The S.T.O.P method is not a theoretical tool. It is practical, scientific, and actionable. It works in the moment, exactly when you need it most. Emotional mastery isn't something that happens overnight. Like physical fitness, it requires deliberate training, consistent practice, and patience. You don't go to the gym once and expect a six-pack. You build strength over time, one repetition at a time. The same principle applies to your emotions. The first step is awareness. You must become intimately familiar with your emotional landscape. What triggers anger in you? What situations provoke anxiety? Which words or actions make you defensive? Awareness alone doesn't change your behavior, but it creates the foundation for growth. Without knowing your triggers, you remain reactive, at the mercy of whatever the day throws at you. The next step is experimentation. In safe environments, practice the gap between stimulus and response. Use minor triggers to strengthen your capacity for conscious choice. Instead of snapping at a minor inconvenience, pause. Take a breath. Observe. Respond intentionally. Over time, even stronger triggers will become manageable. Another crucial element is reflection. After any emotional event, ask yourself, what happened? How did I feel? How did I react? Could I have responded differently? Journaling these reflections accelerates learning. Your brain records not just the events, but also your conscious choices, reinforcing neural pathways that support rational, intentional action. Micro-practices for daily mastery. Mastering emotions isn't confined to crisis moments. Small, consistent practices build resilience over time. Morning check-in. Begin each day by assessing your mood and energy. Recognize potential emotional vulnerabilities. Mindful pauses. Throughout the day, pause for a few seconds before responding, even in low-stress situations. This strengthens the stimulus-response gap. Stress simulation. Place yourself in slightly uncomfortable situations intentionally, like delivering a short speech or tackling a minor frustration. Practice controlled responses. Gratitude and perspective. Reflect on successes and positive interactions to train your brain to focus on rewards, not just threats. This counters the amygdala's negativity bias. Building a resilient mind. Over time, practicing these techniques rewires your brain. Neural pathways that once reinforced reactivity weaken, while those that support intentional action strengthen. You become less impulsive, more measured, and better equipped to handle pressure. You'll notice profound changes. Conversations that used to trigger frustration become manageable. High-stakes situations evoke focus instead of panic. Relationships grow stronger as trust increases and conflicts diminish. Your self-respect rises because you consistently demonstrate that you can govern your actions, not your emotions. Emotional mastery doesn't mean perfection. It means progressive control. Each choice to pause, breathe, observe, and respond reinforces a new pattern. Over months and years, these patterns accumulate into a resilient, composed, and strategically minded individual. From awareness to transformation. The journey from reactive to masterful is transformative. It touches every part of life: personal relations, career, finances, health, and self-esteem. Your emotional habits shape your reality far more than you realize. With consistent effort, emotional control evolves from conscious practice to an almost automatic state. You stop being ruled by fear, anger, or anxiety. Instead, you leverage emotions as tools, signals to guide thoughtful action, rather than commands demanding instant reaction. The power lies in knowing your emotions are information, not orders. Master this principle, and you reclaim authority over your life. Emotions like anger, fear, and anxiety are powerful. Left unchecked, they dictate actions, disrupt focus, and damage relationships. But when understood and managed, they become tools that can drive performance, insight, and personal growth. The first step is recognition. Identify which emotion you're experiencing and acknowledge it without judgment. Many people try to suppress uncomfortable feelings, but ignoring them only amplifies their intensity. Anger ignored will erupt later. Fear avoided will control decisions. Anxiety denied will manifest as distraction or procrastination. Anger, harnessing the energy. Anger is a signal, not an enemy. It often arises when your values or boundaries are threatened. The challenge is transforming anger from a destructive force into a constructive one. Steps to manage anger. Pause. Use the S.T.O.P method to halt impulsive reactions. Identify. Ask yourself what the root cause is. Are you reacting to the situation or to a deeper unmet need? Channel. Direct the energy towards solutions or action. Instead of yelling, focus on communicating assertively, setting boundaries, or taking proactive steps. Anger, properly managed, can increase motivation, sharpen focus, and energize problem-solving. It becomes a tool rather than a liability. Fear, turning caution into confidence. Fear is the brain's way of signaling potential danger, whether real or imagined. In modern life, fear is often disproportionate to actual risk. It may manifest as hesitation, avoidance, or self-doubt. Steps to manage fear. Clarify the threat. Is this danger immediate and real, or imagined? Separate perception from fact. Break it down. Divide overwhelming tasks into manageable steps. Gradual exposure reduces fear over time. Focus on preparation. Confidence grows when you combine action with planning. Fear diminishes when you know you are ready. Fear, when understood, becomes a guide rather than a barrier. It signals where to focus energy, assess risk, and prepare adequately. Anxiety. Converting worry into strategy. Anxiety often comes from uncertainty and anticipation of future challenges. Left unmanaged, it paralyzes action and creates chronic stress. Steps to manage anxiety. Ground yourself. Focus on the present moment. Mindfulness techniques anchor attention to reality rather than imagined outcomes. Analyze rationally. Distinguish between solvable problems and hypothetical worries. Focus on what you can control. Act strategically. Use the energy from anxiety to plan, prioritize, and take deliberate steps forward. Anxiety managed effectively becomes an early warning system and a driver of disciplined preparation and decision-making. Transforming emotional triggers into opportunities. Across anger, fear, and anxiety, the underlying principle is the same. Emotions are data, not directives. They indicate what matters, highlight vulnerabilities, and provide energy. The difference between mastery and chaos lies in how you respond. Pause. Intervene before reactions take over. Observe. Understand what the emotion is signaling. Redirect. Channel the energy towards productive action aligned with your goals. Repeatedly practicing this approach rewires your brain. Triggers that once provoked destructive responses now become opportunities for clarity, creativity, and focused action. Over time, emotional resilience grows, allowing you to navigate stress, conflict, and uncertainty with calm precision. Daily practices for emotional strength. Morning emotional scan. Check in on your emotional baseline before facing the day. Micro-pause routine. Introduce small pauses before responding to emails, messages, or conversations. Physical reset. Exercise, stretching, or controlled breathing to regulate the nervous system. Reflective journaling. After the day, review emotional triggers and assess responses to strengthen future control. Through consistent practice, the emotional triggers that once caused havoc now provide guidance, energy, and insight. You begin to live intentionally, rather than reactively, in every domain of life. Emotional mastery isn't just about managing single reactions. It's about creating a resilient mind that thrives under pressure, adapts to change, and recovers quickly from setbacks. Long-term emotional resilience is the foundation for sustained success, deep relationships,
and personal fulfillment. The first step is consistency. Occasional self-control won't rewire your brain. You must intentionally practice awareness, pause, and deliberate response every day. The more consistently you intervene between stimulus and reaction, the stronger your prefrontal cortex becomes, and the more your amygdala learns to respond appropriately. Developing a resilient mindset. A resilient mind is built on 3 pillars. Perspective. Emotional resilience begins with seeing challenges as opportunities rather than threats. A reframe doesn't make problems disappear, but changes how your brain reacts to them. Viewing setbacks as temporary and solvable reduces stress and encourages proactive behavior. Adaptability. Life is unpredictable. Those who cling rigidly to expectations are easily overwhelmed. Emotional resilience grows when you remain flexible, adjusting responses to fit changing circumstances rather than reacting reflexively. Self-compassion. Resilience is not about perfection. Mistakes and emotional slip-ups are inevitable. How you respond internally matters more than the external event. Treat yourself with kindness, learn from missteps, and use each experience to strengthen your emotional control. Training for long-term strength. Resilience is like a muscle. It strengthens under controlled stress. To build it, incremental exposure. Gradually place yourself in situations that challenge your emotional control. Start small, increase intensity over time. Each controlled exposure strengthens your ability to respond thoughtfully. Reflection and adjustment. After each challenge, analyze what went well and what can improve. Document insights and integrate them into future practice. Energy management. Physical health and emotional resilience are interconnected. Adequate sleep,
Nutrition, hydration, and regular exercise maintain the brain's ability to regulate stress and sustain focus. Creating supportive environments. Long-term emotional resilience isn't developed in isolation. Your environment, the people, routines, and structures around you, plays a critical role. Relationships. Surround yourself with individuals who model emotional control and provide constructive feedback. Avoid chronic negativity or drama that reinforces reactive habits. Systems. Establish routines and habits that reduce stress and increase predictability. Morning rituals, planning sessions, and regular reflection create stability and reduce unnecessary emotional triggers. Boundaries. Protect your time, energy, and emotional state by setting limits with people, commitments, and digital distractions. Boundaries aren't selfish. They preserve your ability to respond effectively rather than react impulsively. The compound effect of emotional mastery. Every controlled response, every pause, every strategic choice strengthens neural pathways and reinforces your ability to manage future situations. Over time, small, deliberate actions compound into profound change. Conflicts that once spiraled now resolve calmly. Anxiety transforms into proactive planning. Anger becomes fuel for focused action rather than destruction. The result is an unshakable inner foundation. Emotional resilience doesn't eliminate challenges. It allows you to navigate them with composure, clarity, and confidence. Your future self. Building long-term emotional resilience is a commitment to your future self. Each decision to pause, observe, and respond intentionally shapes the life you are capable of leading. The consistent practice of emotional mastery creates a person who acts with purpose, maintains strong relationships, and makes decisions aligned with long-term goals. Your emotions are no longer unpredictable masters of your behavior. Instead, they become allies, signals, energy, and guidance for intelligent, deliberate action. With dedication, the reactive person you once were evolves into someone who lives intentionally, thrives under pressure, and commands respect from others and from yourself.
Mastering emotions is not just about personal discipline. It transforms every area of life. Emotional control enhances relationships, accelerates career success, and strengthens personal growth. When applied consistently, it becomes the difference between ordinary outcomes and extraordinary achievement. Emotional mastery in relationships. Relationships thrive on trust, communication, and empathy. Emotional reactivity erodes these foundations. Conversely, mastery strengthens them. Communication. Pausing before responding prevents words that harm. Observing your emotions allows you to respond thoughtfully, even in conflict. You choose clarity over impulsivity. Conflict resolution. Calm responses reduce escalation. By transforming anger and frustration into constructive dialogue, you turn disagreements into opportunities for understanding. Empathy and listening. Emotional awareness enhances your ability to perceive others' feelings accurately. This strengthens connections and deepens trust. Long-term, your ability to manage emotions prevents unnecessary distance, resentment, and misunderstandings. Families, partners, and colleagues notice the stability and reliability you bring, fostering stronger, more meaningful bonds. Emotional mastery in your career. The workplace is full of triggers: criticism, high stakes, competition, and unexpected challenges. Those who react impulsively limit their potential, while those who respond strategically excel. Decision-making under pressure. Emotional control allows you to think clearly, assess options, and make better decisions even in stressful situations. Leadership and influence.
Leaders who regulate their emotions inspire confidence and loyalty. Teams perform better when guided by calm, consistent authority rather than reactive impulses. Negotiation and problem solving. Controlled emotional responses turn high-pressure moments into strategic advantages. You gain influence by remaining composed while others react emotionally. In short, emotional mastery becomes a competitive advantage, creating opportunities for promotions, partnerships, and success that reactive individuals rarely achieve. Emotional mastery in personal growth. Personal development thrives on clarity, reflection, and self-discipline. Emotional control enables goal achievement. Anxiety, fear, and frustration often derail long-term plans. Mastery allows you to act consistently toward goals even when motivation wanes. Self-reflection. Calm awareness of emotions helps identify patterns, strengths, and areas for improvement. Growth is faster and more targeted. Resilience. Life inevitably brings setbacks. Emotional mastery provides the ability to recover quickly, extract lessons, and maintain forward momentum. By managing your emotions, you accelerate personal growth and maintain a trajectory toward meaningful and fulfilling achievements. Practical integration techniques. To embed emotional mastery across life domains, consider these strategies. Daily review. Reflect on emotional responses in personal and professional situations. What worked? What could improve? Role-playing. Practice challenging conversations or negotiations in a low-stakes environment to refine responses. Trigger journaling. Keep a log of recurring emotional triggers and your responses to track progress. Mentorship and feedback. Seek guidance from emotionally disciplined individuals to model effective strategies. These practices transform emotional awareness from theory into habitual skill, reinforcing mastery across contexts. The cumulative impact. Integrating emotional mastery multiplies your effectiveness in every area. Relationships become stronger, deeper, and more resilient. Career decisions are sharper, leadership more compelling, and influence more powerful. Personal growth accelerates and self-respect flourishes. Your emotions shift from unpredictable forces into reliable allies. You move through life intentionally, responding strategically instead of reacting impulsively. Every day becomes an opportunity to exercise control, build resilience, and shape the future you desire. Your next step. Emotional mastery is a lifelong journey, not a destination. Each moment you pause, observe, and respond intentionally strengthens your capacity for control. Every decision you make from this place of mastery compounds over time, producing results far beyond what reactive behavior ever could. The person you are today is just the starting point. Through consistent practice, reflection, and application, you evolve into someone capable of handling any challenge with calm, clarity, and purpose. Your life becomes an intentional creation, guided by reason, values, and foresight, rather than being dictated by fleeting emotional impulses. You've learned that emotions are powerful, but not absolute. They are signals, not commands. You've seen how impulsive reactions damage relationships, careers, and self-respect, and how mastery over your emotional responses transforms life at every level. Now it's time to integrate everything you've learned and move forward with purpose. The journey ahead is not about perfection, it's about progressive mastery. You will have moments of reactivity. You will occasionally act impulsively. What matters is that you recognize these moments, reflect on them, and apply the strategies to regain control. Building a sustainable emotional practice. Consistency is the cornerstone of long-term success. Emotional mastery requires daily attention. Awareness practice. Check in with yourself regularly. Recognize feelings as they arise before they escalate. Deliberate pauses. Implement micro-pauses in conversations, decisions, and challenging situations. Strengthen the gap between stimulus and response. Reflection and journaling. Review daily emotional experiences, noting patterns and insights. Use them to adjust future responses. Growth mindset. Treat challenges and mistakes as opportunities for learning. Emotional setbacks are not failures, they are data for improvement. Over time, these practices embed resilience, clarity, and intentionality into your daily life. Leveraging emotional mastery across life. Emotional control is not just a personal tool, it impacts every aspect of life. Relationships, fewer conflicts, deeper trust, and more meaningful connections. Career, better decision-making, stronger leadership, and enhanced influence. Health, reduced stress, improved mental clarity, and more energy. Personal growth, accelerated learning, confidence, and fulfillment. Your ability to act thoughtfully rather than react impulsively compounds over time, creating exponential improvement in life outcomes. Your future self. Imagine yourself a year from now, calm under pressure, strategic in your responses, respected by colleagues and loved ones alike. Every challenge is an opportunity for growth rather than a trigger for frustration. You navigate life with clarity, composure, and confidence. This future is achievable because emotional mastery is learnable and trainable. Every pause, every controlled breath, every deliberate response strengthens the neural pathways of control, gradually replacing the habits of reactivity. You are literally rewiring your brain for success. The ultimate choice. The most important lesson is this: your emotional destiny is in your hands. You can choose to remain reactive, controlled by impulses and stress hormones, or you can commit to mastery, transforming your emotions into allies that guide thoughtful action. Every decision you make from this point forward shapes your life. By consistently applying awareness, reflection, and the S.T.O.P method, you shift from living reactively to living intentionally. You become the architect of your emotional reality. Your power lies in the gap between stimulus and response. Use it, train it, strengthen it. The more you do, the more resilient, effective, and fulfilled you become. Final thought. Mastering emotions is not a quick fix. It is a lifelong journey of growth, awareness, and self-discipline. Yet the rewards are monumental. Control over your reactions, clarity in decisions, strength in relationships, confidence in yourself. By choosing mastery, you claim the life you are capable of living. Every pause, every breath, every thoughtful response compounds into a reality where you, not your emotions, determine your path. You are no longer at the mercy of fleeting impulse.
You are deliberate, composed, and empowered. This is the path forward, your path, to emotional mastery, lasting success, and a life fully within your control.